You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, and welcome to episode 113 of the Soul Forge podcast.
Welcome to the Soul Forge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Hey gang, welcome back to the Soul Forge. It's your ever-present host, Sean, and I've got a special treat for you today. I know I probably say that every week, it's always a special treat, because it is. It's the Soul Forge, you never know what you're going to get. It's always a surprise, but this time, it's completely different. It's kind of an experiment that I've been thinking about for a few months, actually, I guess. What it is, it's a collection of mini episodes. And what I mean by that is that sometimes I come up with topic ideas or something strikes me. It's not necessarily enough material for a full-length episode of 15 to 25 minutes. So what I've done, I've got 4 what I was calling tactical minis. But I'm thinking maybe quick shots is a better name for the things. Why don't you weigh in, listeners, dear listeners? soulforgepodcast@gmail.com or at soulforgepod on Twitter, and let me know what you think. Should I call these tactical minis, or should I call them quick shots? Like I said, I've got 4 of them here for you this week, different topics. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to play them in order as I recorded them. The first one was recorded way back in April, I believe, and on that first one, I hadn't quite locked down the format yet, and so I ramble a little bit and talk about a few other things and what I have planned for the whole tactical mini idea, so you can see a little bit of the evolution of the process. The first one was recorded in April, the second one I believe was in May, and the last 2 were July, I believe. So I'm just going to go ahead and play them, and I'd love to hear your opinion on whether you think this should be a recurring segment that I should do every several months or whatever. It took me April, May, June, July, about 4.5 months to come up with these 4 because I wasn't really sure what I was doing. But they're short and they're sweet and they're different topics. And then what'll happen is between each one, I'll play a promo for a different podcast on the ESO network just to break them up a little bit. And then we'll go from there. And I'll wrap up the show once the 4 episodes have played. So I'll be back after these messages.
Hey, this is Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, and you're listening to Soul Forge with Sean Vanderloo.
Okay, so this is an experiment. I'm calling it Tactical Minis, as in specifically directed mini episodes. I'm planning on actually gathering a whole bunch and making several episodes of multiple mini vignettes, I guess, whatever we're going to call them. This is the first one that I'm recording. This might not be the first one that you actually hear, so I don't know. It's going to be confusing. But anyway, recording this April 14th, 2019, and I've been thinking about this for a while. And this weekend here in Timmins is our Northern Ontario Expo Timmins Comic Con, and I'm on the board of directors, so I'm staff, I'm walking around, talking to people, making sure everything's okay, taking money at the door, and taking a break, sitting down, and who do I see? My ex-wife, Bridget. Of course she was there. She had her daughter Peyton with her, who's 10 years old. Hadn't seen Peyton in forever. Haven't seen Bridget. I can't remember the last time. Sometime last year, maybe around this time exactly, because we got divorced in May. I didn't need to see her. I didn't want to see her. I'm glad Mark wasn't there with her. It's just, I'm not as over this whole mess thing as I want to be, and it kind of pisses me off. I'm supposed to be beyond that. We're divorced. We've moved on. We haven't lived together since 2015. and yet when I see her, it still hurts, and I don't know why. Is it because she was the greatest source of happiness in my life and also the greatest source of misery? I don't know if that's giving her too much credit, but it's still not fun to see her. I was sitting there on my break and I saw her. I don't know if she saw me at the same time or not. She ignored me the whole time. I ignored her, so we didn't actually have any interaction. I couldn't, but I was sitting here talking to my friend Lisa, and I see Bridget, and I said to Lisa, "Hey, if you look over there, you'll see my ex-wife." And she's like, "Who?" I'm like, "The redhead." "That's your ex-wife?" she said. I'm like, "Yeah, that's her." She's like, "She looks like she's 12 or 10 or something." I'm like, "Well, that's who she is. Her daughter's 10, but that's her." She's like, "Well, that is not how I pictured her at all," and that's just what happened basically. I saw her several times throughout the course of the day. No interaction. She didn't look at me directly. I'm sure she saw me because she never misses anything, and that's just the way it was. And it had been a year since I'd seen her. I didn't expect to still feel these feelings. I don't want to feel these feelings. I want them to go away. Like, why does she still have such an influence on my emotions? Like, what the hell? Go away. So anyway, that's Tactical Mini for this week. It's about 3 or so minutes, and I don't know. Maybe it'll be like this. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to gather a whole bunch and eventually make an episode out of it. Maybe they'll be connected in theme, and maybe they'll be totally random. You just never know. In fact, I think I will make this the first one whenever the multiple episode comes out. So I hope you enjoy that little mini episode. It's not enough to talk about for an entire 20 to 30 minute show, so that's why I call it Tactical Minis. Maybe that's a cool name, maybe it's not. Let me know what you think. Oh, I bought a cane sword at the expo yesterday as well. It's a cane that screws off the top, and there's a little mini blade sword inside. And I've wanted one since I was about 15. I got one, and that's it. That's all I got for this week, or this episode. If you want to know more about the whole Bridget episode, if you're new to the podcast, go check out episode 68 for the sad, sad story. Until next time, take care and have fun.
We are the Cigar Nerds, bringing nerdy sophistication and geeky indulgence on all topics, including movies, video games, science, and pop culture news, all from the Nerd Cave Cigar Lounge. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are found, including esonetwork.com and cigarnerdpodcast.com. So fire up a cigar, it's time to get nerdy.
This is Kitty from Jump City Comics, and you're listening to the Soul Forge podcast. Forge your soul.
So I just had a counseling session yesterday afternoon, and this is a little tactical mini just to talk about that a little bit. So, nice guy, talked about my history and all the things that have happened to me, well, just briefly really, throughout my life since childhood. Talked about all the loss, I guess, that I've suffered. The divorce my parents had when I was 5 that defined me for years. The 6 different public schools that I went to, all the houses that we lived in and moved around, the relationships that ended, the loss of my son in 2005, the ending of my relationship with Trish in 2012, the loss of my grandparents in 2013, the loss of my mom in 2014, the end of my marriage to Bridget in 2015, and all those kind of things. And the counselor basically said, well, you know what the problem is? Your life has been defined by loss, and because of that, that's what you expect. It's all about impermanence. And I thought about it, and thought about it last night after I got home, thought about it last night while I was sleeping, and thought about it this morning as well. And I guess that he's right. My life has been defined by impermanence, which, as he said, has resulted in negative thought patterns. And so what I need to do is surround myself with positivity, do things that make me happy. And I actually asked him, I said, is it true that happiness comes from within? Because that's what you always hear. No one can make you happy. You have to find the happiness within yourself. And he said that's partially true, but of course, external stimuli will affect your moods. So, long story short, I expect things to end, so it's not surprising that all the stuff that I talked about in episode 101, the existential crisis episode, has been bearing down on me and affecting my moods. So how can you expect to be happy if you're always expecting, even subconsciously, for things to end? Nothing's going to last. What's the point? And so with this new information, and I guess I probably should have put it together myself, but sometimes it takes talking to somebody who doesn't know you to really define the issue. So that means I need to just start doing things. He said, make it happen. Because I talked about how I was going to teach English overseas after university, and I just never did. I was going to open up a comic book shop, but I was too afraid. So stop being afraid, do things that make you happy, surround yourself with positive people, stop reading articles about the end of the world, and that's a good place to start. So just a brief update, all about counseling, and if you're looking for a counselor, go find one, because that was just my first session. There's more to come, but that was quite eye-opening. So until next time, folks.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
The better that these Marvel films do, the higher the standards are going to be for not just other films in general, but other Marvel films also.
I think it's really hard to end a show with this many fans in a satisfying way.
That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse.
Playing worldwide on radio 7 days a week and right here on the ESO Network.
All right, time for another tactical mini. This one is being recorded July 20th, 2019, the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing on the moon. But that's not what this is about. No, here's some positivity for you. Last night, Corinne was in town, and we got together for dinner. And who's Corinne, you might ask? Well, if you listen to the early episodes of Soul Forge, where I talked about my dating history, Corinne was the first girl that I dated after the dissolution of my marriage, and I had moved out of the marriage house and got my own place. So what happened was, and I may have mentioned this almost 2 years ago now, because the 2-year anniversary of Soul Forge does take place July 31st, 2019. So that'll be 2 years for the podcast. But anyway, what happened was I had gotten my own place May 1st of 2015 and was starting to live my life and find a new routine and a new equilibrium and whatnot. But then I was lonely, and I figured, well, it's been 3 or 4 weeks. I should get back into the dating pool. I must be okay. I'm not devastated or anything. So I hopped on Plenty of Fish and started having conversations with people, and Corinne was one of the people that I met there. And we talked for a few days, and it was nice. And then she said, hey, why don't you come on over so we can meet? And I'm like, well, I haven't shaved or anything. I'm not very presentable. But she said, it doesn't matter. Just come on over so we can get to know each other. So I did. And then we were inseparable for about a month and a half until I realized, oh, geez, I'm definitely not ready for a new relationship. And Corinne and I talked about that last night. We went out for dinner and had some ice cream, and it was nice. About 3 hours of just hanging out and reminiscing and catching up. And I hadn't seen her since probably the beginning of 2016. So a long time. And it was nice to catch up, and we're still friends on Facebook and whatnot. And actually found a couple pictures of us on one of my old phones from that era. So I showed her that and talked about it, and it was just nice to catch up, talk about where we are in life now, where she is, where I am. And it was just a overall around good experience. She's in a better place, I'm in a better place, and what more can I say about it really, other than the fact that, hey, good to see you. We talk on Facebook randomly, nothing scheduled, just whenever. See each other's updates and that kind of thing. And she's moved to a different town, so she was only here for a couple days, and she comes back randomly. And so we might get together for dinner or a walk or a chat or something the next time. We may even record a podcast. That's a possibility. Hard to say what's going to happen. I don't know. But it was good. And I have nothing bad to say about it. And there's no hard feelings between us. She was in a different place. I was in a different place. And now we're in this place and everything's okay. And I just wanted to get that out there because it's nice to have something positive to report for once. So this concludes the third Tactical Mini.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the comedy stylings of Hugh for the Borg Collective. When I was part of the Borg Collective, my Borg wife was so fat, when she sat around the collective, she sat around the collective.
The Monster Sci-Fi Show is part of the ESO network. It's sci-fi from a certain point of view.
Hello, I'm Daniel Peter Hitch, author of the Bubbles the Pirate children's book series and the Connected Worlds Chronicles. You're listening to the Soul Forge podcast. Keep forging your soul.
So here's a good use for one of these tactical mini episodes. Just yesterday, I released the Cheryl Saga episode 111 of Soul Forge podcast. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, within 24 hours, that episode received more downloads than a regular episode receives within 1 week. So I guess people definitely wanted to know what the whole Cheryl Saga was about, the whole thing. So what we did was we recorded an episode, and turned out we didn't like it too much. Cheryl thought it was not emotional enough, and so we recorded another one, and that's the one that you would have heard by now. It evoked a lot of comments, way more comments than a normal episode receives, and people definitely had their opinion. And I guess you could say that some of the comments attacked Cheryl. Not all of them did. A lot of them had some very balanced and fair opinions, especially the one from Richard from Australia, which you should go check out on the Facebook page. So anyway, long story short, what this all results in is that I guess people wanted to know what was going on. They found out, they had strong opinions, they let it be known. Cheryl felt attacked a little bit, and I wouldn't say that's completely fair because, of course, it takes two people to be in a relationship, and I would say that mistakes were made on both sides. Of course, the comments were mainly from my friends, so of course they're going to stick up for me, and they have their own opinions on what Cheryl is like as a person and what I'm like as a person. But as it turns out, most people did not approve of our pairing. That's none of their business, actually, and if she and I wanted to pursue a relationship again, then we will or we would, and if we don't want to, we won't. But really, I guess the main thing is that the whole idea was for us to tell our story together in a fair and balanced manner. We thought we did. We left some things out. We were vague on certain aspects of what happened, but overall I thought it was a pretty good episode. Told a lot of the ins and the outs and the what have yous of the relationship and the aftermath and what happened before. Of course, can't tell everything because some of that stuff is private and personal, but the main thing is that we got our version of events out there. There's always more to come. We could tell more in the future if we felt like it. Maybe we'll release the first discarded recording to Patreon members. Oh, wouldn't that be a treat for you guys? Pay $10 and you can listen to the first episode that we didn't approve of. Just kidding. Anyways, the long story short is that we sat down and we communicated, and maybe that wasn't always the best aspect of our relationship, but there you have it. And Cheryl wanted you guys to know, she wanted me to tell you that in no way, shape, or form did she control me during our relationship. She allowed me to go out with my friends and allowed me to do whatever I wanted. And that's where I'll leave it. This has been another Tactical Mini. Do you enjoy pop culture? Of course you do. You're already listening to pop culture podcasts here on the ESO network. The Rusted Robot podcast discusses movies, trailers, TV shows, space and robot news, and so much more. Won't you please join us for a pop culture overload wherever you listen to podcasts? therustedrobot.podbean.com, a proud partner of the Soulforge podcast here on the ESO network.
The Rusted Robot Podcast. Think about it.
All right, so what do you think of those? I hope that was entertaining. Hope you learned a lot. Maybe some of those could be expanded into further topics for a full-length episode themselves. But what I'm really hoping for is maybe some of you listeners out there in podcast land would like to record a tactical mini / quick shot of your own. Do you have a 3 or 4 minute rant or ramble that you'd like to have other people listen to? I'm always open to having different people share their voice here in the Soulforge headquarters. I don't know what to call it. Yeah, let's go with Soulforge headquarters, or just the Forge, because we're always trying to forge better versions of ourselves. And I'm not sure that these tactical minis forged anything better, but just little mini topics that I needed to get out there. And what I found actually was I have to record a quick shot right away, at least within 24 hours of the thought popping into my head. Because if I wait any time longer than that, then I just don't care anymore. The feeling's gone. The passion with which I record the mini episode has just dissipated. And that's it. It doesn't matter anymore. So it has to be quick and passionate, and it has to be out there. So I hope you could tell that in my voice. Some of them I was a little bit unsteady, but yeah, I didn't know what I was really doing, and I still don't. Life is a growing process. We learn as we go. But all that being said, I hope you liked what you heard. I hope you got something from it, and it meant something to you. And I hope you liked all the different little interludes and other podcast promos and so on and so forth. Next week and the week after, I have got both of the hosts from A Play on Nerds doing, well, we Skyped. So next week I've got Steve, and the week after that I've got Jarman. Definitely go check out A Play on Nerds podcast. It's one of my favorites. It's all about geeky pop culture, similar to my own Rusted Robot podcast, which I hope most of you are listening to as well. But until next time, thanks for coming by and being part of this experiment. I would really love for you to weigh in on whether I should keep calling them tactical minis or quick shots, or maybe a different name altogether. Email me, tweet me, leave a comment on the link of the episode on the Facebook page, whatever. Just want to hear from you guys. But until next time, thanks again for everything, and remember, the hardest prison to escape from is the mind. This has been another episode of the Soulforge Podcast. Find us on Twitter at SoulforgePod, or email the show via soulforgepodcast@gmail.com. Soulforge is a production of Sean Vanderloo and Friends. You can find Sean on Twitter and Instagram at Darth Vaderloo. Remember to visit soulforgepodcast.com for all of our social media links, and share the show with everyone you know. Thanks for stopping by the Forge. We'll keep the fires lit until your next visit.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon, or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.